This has been one of the best wheat pasture years in at least the last 5 or 6 years here in Oklahoma. Outstanding production through the fall, even though we probably had some delayed planting due to some timing of moisture, but we had some real nice weather through the fall and early winter. The wheat crop has really made it nicely through this last few weeks of severe cold, and it's really starting to grow back. First hollow stem is probably right around the corner, but as we're continuing our grazing through this period where we're really getting some great growth, there's some concerns that we probably should consider. We're starting to see some bloat of wheat pasture cattle out in the central and into western Oklahoma. And this is probably because we had that severe cold, probably had some pastures graze short, and now we have some really nice weather. You know, we expect 3 to 5 pounds of forage dry matter per acre for each growing degree day. And this week, you know, we're calculating about 15 to 20 growing degree days every day. So we're going to produce about 35 to 40 pounds of dry matter per acre. If we have a calf stocked, 1 calf for every 2 acres, that's about 80 pounds per calf. And each calf is only going to consume about 30 pounds of forage dry matter or less, about 3% of their body weight. When we look at these calves, they've got a lot of fresh regrowth, and that's what's really going to be bloat provocative, and that's why we're going to see some bloat. I hope we don't see as severe a bloat year as we did last year, but we are starting to see some moderate bloat in some of these conditions. And what happens is that fresh regrowth that really pops in, starts growing rapidly, is very high in quality, very low in dry matter. There's a lot of soluble proteins and soluble carbohydrates, and when those become available in the rumen, that's what kind of leads to that stable foam matrix that grows in the rumen and causes bloat. Couple that with a frost in the morning that disrupts the plant cell walls, that makes those compounds more available in the rumen. So, you know, we'll see calves, their morning routine is they get up about daylight and start grazing about the time we'll have that frost occur. And so in the morning would be that time that we should be checking those cattle for bloat. Forage growth has been outstanding. Yesterday, as I was driving through western Oklahoma and into central Oklahoma, you know, about 9:30 in the morning, we saw calves that had been grazing out on wheat leaving wheat pasture to go and settle in by ponds or just to start resting. So we know they're getting all the grazing they want within that 2 or 3 hour period from daylight until that time. Another consideration, we have some fairly good economics for stocker calves, so there are people considering graze out, but also there's prospects of an excellent wheat crop. So in dual purpose wheat production, we really need to start looking at that first hollow stem. The Mesonet has a tool that estimates what the first hollow stem is depending on your variety or the maturity type of your variety, early, moderate, or late maturing varieties. So it will estimate when we're starting to see that first hollow stem, but we probably should be scouting our own fields. In instances where we have a lot of residual forage, we can graze past that first hollow stem with only a little bit of effect, maybe 1 to 2 bushel decrease for every day we graze. But if we have a very short crop, which most of us do through this time of year when we start getting into first hollow stem, we can decrease our grain yield by 5 bushel for every day that we keep cattle out past first hollow stem. So that's something that we really need to scout and make sure that as we see that first hollow stem, we start removing those cattle from pastures and market them or move them to the next phase of production. For a link to these extension tools, go to the SUNUP website.